One of the coolest things about having this platform and talking about college football is being able to actually go and talk to the players and coaches that make this sport run and make this sport possible and happen. And so that's something that's really cool. I go to media days. Some of you guys might have seen from my other content that I was there. I was at Big 12 media days this last week. I will be at either Big 10 or ACC media days in the future. Eventually we'll be at SEC when they stop rejecting me. We'll figure that out down the stretch here. But I wanted to go ahead and just put all of my coaches' questions that I asked when they were on the main podium into one video for you guys to just see what I asked everybody. There's no other place I can really very smoothly put these, so I just decided, you know what, let's just put them all into a video and leave them up there for you guys and just let it rip. So I thank you guys again for giving me the platform to even be able to ask these questions, and I love to just show it off. I love to keep the questions a little bit more football focused. I know these guys are fielding a lot of journalistic questions where guys are like trying to get them with a gotcha moment or whatever. I try to keep it rooted in football and rooted on the season, the opponents, maybe schematically, things like that. And so hopefully you guys enjoy it. And without further ado, here's every question I asked at Big 12 Media Day.
Kind of in the same vein with the 5-11 model, it's been talked about how some of the criteria for the committee might change with the adoption of that model, at the promise of factoring in strength of schedule more heavily. I know you just touched on it a little bit, but talking about those factors changing and the criteria changing, how does that factor into your support of that model?
Listen, I'm going to defer to Richard Clark. He's here today, but I think as you look at how things are weighted, the different metrics, strength of schedule matters. And there's some new metrics that are going to be brought into the puzzle, I think, as well, to complement what's already there. So again, I'm confident we'll get to the right place, and ultimately I'm confident we'll go to 5-11.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. Coach, you guys had Zach Kittley last season as one of the brightest young offensive minds in the sport. He obviously gets the opportunity to lead FAU this season as the head coach. And you went and got Mac Leftwich this offseason, another guy that is in a similar position, a rising, young, great offensive mind. Do you anticipate he'll eventually get an opportunity to lead a team as well? And can you describe what it means to your team to have a guy like that in the building for another year?
Yeah, I think Mac, I knew Zach was going to be a head coach. He has those qualities, and I'm excited for him. I want to be around guys that want to move up, that want to be coordinators and want to be head coaches. I see the same thing in Mac. He's a coach's kid, just like Zach was, and he understands, what it takes to lead a team. I've been really impressed. I'm excited to go into a game with him. I've seen what he's doing, whenever he attacks our defense, but I'm ready to see what he did. But, you look at, there's two young guys that have had a lot of success. Kittley had a lot of success at Western Kentucky and had a lot of success at Texas Tech. And Mac has done the same thing. He did it at Incarnate Word. He did it at Texas State. And I know he's really excited about the offense that he has to lead. But I really do think Mac will be a head coach. I'm hoping I get to keep him for at least 3 years like I got to keep Kittley. But I expect him to be a head coach someday.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. Coach, in the face of some off-the-field distractions this offseason, you said a little bit ago that every team develops its own identity. In the face of this uncertainty, what identity have you seen start to emerge with your group, or is that something that you don't fully see until the fall?
I think the identity is still a work in progress. I think you have to have a foundation that's set on some principles, and you have to have a mission that you want your program to follow through with. So we have all those in place, but I think there's room for flexibility for our team to find their own identity, and that's usually done with the leaders and the team itself. I would love for me to speak for them, but you have 5 young men that can do that, and I think as we go throughout the year, we'll start to establish their identity, not only on the field, but off the field. So I'm looking forward to the leadership, and there's so much excitement and energy around our program, and that's a big part of what the players and how they conduct themselves.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. I know it's never that simple in college football, but if you could bottle up one or a few things from that mid-November run you guys had last season, what would it be?
Well, as we said, last year kind of hit probably on before that November run is the tough start to the season. And we just didn't play our best when our best was needed.
We didn't close out football games. We had opportunities to. And at the same time, though, as we talk about our daily process within our program, we didn't waver on that. We didn't deflect it. We didn't blame. We continued to work hard. And again, our locker room did a great job. Our leaders did a great job of sticking together and working hard. And I think we found out that, once we were able to turn the corner and flip the switch, so to speak, our confidence grew and we became the team that we thought we could have been all the way.
Right.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. Coach, when I spoke to you last year at Big 12 Media Days, you talked about how for a program looking to turn things around, learning how to win is a key aspect of that. At what point last year do you feel like something clicked where you guys learned how to win, and how do you hope that carries over for this season?
Yeah, I think, I go back to a game where we struggled in the first half, and then in the second half, we took the lead with a big touchdown. They came back with about 3 minutes and 45 seconds left. They scored. Then our quarterback goes in the huddle, freshman quarterback goes in the huddle and says, we're about to march down and score again. And Sam throws it to JT, touchdown. And it was a game where JT overcame adversity versus Kansas, and Sam showed that he can do it in the biggest moments. And I think that was one of the times that I said, okay, our offense can win games for us at the end. And then there were times on defense where at the end of the first half versus UCF, even though it wasn't the end of the game, we had a big-time pick six at the end of that first half. So I think throughout the season, all the phases affected winning, and it became contagious. But the fun thing is, last year has nothing to do with this year. When you're in college football, when you're in sports, you may as well throw the book out and you start from scratch. Everybody starts with the same record. Just some people get looked at more and people play harder verse. So it's actually harder to sustain success in sports than other things.
Before I show you this next question, just know this is the biggest goof I've ever had at any media day. This is my 4th media day, by the way, and I was thinking about editing it out, but I decided I just wanted to leave it in just to show you guys an example of what a not very good question is. I was trying to ask one that was a little bit goofy, but still, something I could get value out of, potentially asking Satterfield about his hat and his visor, and you can easily tell what I did wrong. I didn't ask an open-ended question, which is so tough because it would have been so easy. So I'll just go ahead and show you guys that if you're an aspiring journalist out there or even a current journalist, it's just a reminder and a lesson that you've got to ask open-ended questions or you might get dunked on. I thought I recovered decently well after it, but I just decided to leave this in here for your own enjoyment.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. Coach, I got a two-parter for you. Firstly, I've had people reaching out to me, and some people taking notice that you went from your iconic visor look to more of a full hat look in some practices and stuff. Was that an intentional change?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, maybe they cut my mic. That was a terrible question, apparently. But outside of that, you got a big neutral site opener to the season against Nebraska. What do you like about that opportunity to sort of showcase your team to start the season?
Yeah, we're excited about the first game. Nebraska's Coach Rule has obviously done a great job there getting that program back. Went to a bowl game last year. They did some really good things in the portal this offseason, brought in some great players, some linemen, receivers, some defensive players. Now we're playing in a neutral site. It's going to be exciting to play in Kansas City. Open it up on a Thursday night on ESPN. I mean, it's a great gauge for our football team, kind of to see where we're at. It's one of these games too. It's the first game of the season, so you're not playing a FCS team or something to start a year. I mean, we feel like we've got to be hitting on all cylinders when you're starting the season playing against a team like Nebraska. So there's been a little bit more sense of urgency, I think, in our building throughout the summer of getting ready for this first game, and we know it'll be a great challenge and it's a great test. Obviously looking forward to that.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. Coach, you already talked about some of the new offensive additions a little bit. What drew you to Jason Beck as a play caller and a coordinator, and also what added benefit will be there from guys like Dampier that follow him from New Mexico?
Well, great question. Myself, our defensive coordinator, Morgan Scalley, who is our coach in waiting, did a national search when we had the coordinator position available. Just watching all the tape of the various offenses, the production, the creativity, the innovation, how they use their players. When all was said and done, myself and Coach Scalley were on the exact same page that Jason Beck was a great fit for what we're doing. and what direction we wanted to go. When we got Jason on board, Devin Dampier, his quarterback in the Mex last year, was eager to stay with Jason and stay in the same offense. So Devin transferred in, having him know the offense and not have any learning curve at all, because he's been through, Jason has complete autonomy to do what he wants offensively. We're going to be almost a carbon copy of what New Mexico was in philosophy. He does a great job, Jason does, of utilizing personnel, getting guys in position to be successful. And so you'll see some different twists than what you saw last year, but that's just because he's making the most of the players that he has available. Devin and the offense at New Mex finished fourth in the nation last year in total offense. Not to be disparaging, but he was pretty much a one-man show and did most of it on his own. And so I'm sure he's excited to be able to operate behind our offensive line.
Coach, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. You obviously used the transfer portal pretty heavily your first season at West Virginia. Something you also had experience using a little bit at Jacksonville State. Could you describe some of the major differences in terms of roster building in this modern era at West Virginia versus a program like Jacksonville State?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the first coach to mention how transactional the rosters are and what's going on in college athletics right now. And there wasn't a plan. I think your first year, you're probably going to have a little bit more roster turnover, some with a new staff and all that. And, it was more than we kind of expected, but at the same time, I didn't think we panicked. The biggest thing is that you're going to bring a bunch of guys in. You got to make sure you evaluate the right way, and it doesn't change the culture or the environment that you got to have. And that's the one thing we were adamant on, that, whether we bring in 70 new guys like this year or 25 next year or 30 next year, the culture and the environment has to be stable the way we want to do it, and that's why we feel good about it. But I'm hoping we don't have to do that every year. Last year, Jack State, I think there was over 60, and it took us a little longer than we should have to kind of get cranked up. But once it did, we wound up being pretty good. We're hoping the same thing happens.
So that does it. That is every question I asked at Big 12 Media Day this season. Upon seeing these, let me know down in the comments what some of your biggest takeaways were for some of these coaches' answers. Not sure how well this video will perform, how many of you guys will actually care about content like this. But if you liked it, let me know what I should ask potentially Big Ten or ACC coaches, depending on which media day I end up going to. Just let me know things you'd be intrigued to hear, especially based on how I ask these questions in these videos. I will have the full SEC 2025 predictions out tomorrow that I'm sure many more people will enjoy than this video, because this one is, I guess, like a little bit more niche, a little bit more hardcore, but I know there's some people out there that will really appreciate it. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys later this week.